Welcome to our channel, $1 Million Made Easy. This is where we run numbers for people just to see where they might be in the future. And I was just watching a video on YouTube. People were talking about an individual, 60 years old, that has $850,000 saved up, and he wants to do his expected expenses are 5,500, and they went on to say that that might be a real problem. Uh, but I think you got to take into account a lot more than just your expenses and your amount that you start with. First of all, let's do a 60-40 split. This shows you what we do on this channel. 60-40, 60% stay in the S&P 500, 40% going over some kind of a liquid account. So when the market's going down, you're taking it out of that, not out of the S&P 500. I'm going to give yourself a 3% COLA. But something is not taken into account here. We're going to go ahead and run the numbers the way they were looking at them on this channel, not taking into account Social Security. That's a 7.76% withdrawal rate. That's way too high, and you're going to see the results. Again, we use the results for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years. You'd run out of money 49% of the times if their numbers were what they were like for the last 100 years. This is the actual graph. These are the times you wanted to run into a problem if you had returns like these going forward, 49% of the time. But that's not giving you the full picture. He says he's going to get Social Security full retirement age, $3,200 a month. Now, if you do that, this goes up every year, by the way. That's something people don't take into account sometimes. That full retirement amount goes up every year. If you do it at 2.5% rate, 2 years later, he's going to get 3362 at age 70, not age 67. And now again, he's not taking it then, but even 70% of that, which is what he's get at age 62, he'd get 2353. Watch how this changes everything, folks. If he takes that, he's 60 now. If he takes it at age 62, that's third year from now, he's no longer going to need this 5,500 coming out of his nest egg. Just those first 2 years. And then when Social Security kicks in, when this 2353 kicks in, he's only going to need 3312 coming out of his nest egg. Look at the difference that makes. Right now, it's a 49% failure rate. Watch what happens when we calculate Social Security. You got to look at all these different variables. You can't just look at part of the picture when you're doing your planning. Watch the difference, 49% down to a 4% failure rate. Look at the difference, folks. All these years are positive. It's just during the Depression years and a little bit during the year 2000. We've seen this in other videos that the 1930s was a horrible decade, and the year 2000 to 2008 was a horrible decade. But every other scenario, you would be just fine. So you can't just run half the picture. You got to take into account the full picture when you run these numbers. They had this person just panicking, uh, taking out this month and showing him how many times he'd run out of money, given the scenario of what's happened in the last 100 years. And look at this, folks. As soon as you kick Social Security in there, it changes everything from a 49% failure rate down to a 4% failure rate. You could just do a couple other changes. You could change your asset allocation, maybe take a little bit less in COLA, and you'd probably get this down to zero pretty quick. But right now, it's a 96% success rate over 20 years, 95% success rate over 30 years. Look at these kind of numbers we're talking about, folks. You could actually start taking out more if you didn't have those initial years where they were down. For example, more recently, the 3 down years right here, they call that sequence of returns risk. But that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers to try to give you a fuller picture of where you might be. We use actual historical returns for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years, which includes the Depression years. We project ahead what similar returns might do for you in the future, and the resulting numbers are simply a possible range of what may happen in the future. So when we're looking at the withdrawal stage, you need to give me the beginning balance. You want me to run your numbers, your monthly withdrawal, but also don't forget that Social Security amount, how much you're going to get and when to start that. It can make a huge difference. What kind of difference can it make? From a 49% failure rate down to a 4% failure rate. And that's if he took it at age 62. We could change all these other numbers, which would mean you'd be taking it from his nest egg a little bit longer, but he'd be getting more. Again, how much would he be getting more? Each of these periods going down through, this would be changing. This full retirement amount would be changing. We can change all those numbers. But that's what we do in this channel. If you want me to run numbers for you, just again, give me these amounts, but please consider subscribing to this channel. Let people know there's a channel out there that will run numbers and give them some idea what the future might look like. Please share the channel, like the videos, and thanks for watching.